After my triumphant return to the capital, my white moonlight Chu Lang had already married another. Yet in my foolishness I begged the emperor for a decree to wed him, willingly becoming his concubine. On the day the marriage was granted, he was overjoyed and threw a lavish banquet for his colleagues. But on our wedding night he recoiled from every scar that covered my body, and refused to come near me at all. He let my old wounds tear open once more, and I died drowning in hatred and regret. What was even more hateful was that he exploited my loneliness and helplessness, seizing every last asset my family possessed. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn on the day before the grand wedding. I had finally come to my senses. I only wanted to be the best female general I could be. The emperor asked me once more, "Do you wish to become the Duke of Zhenguo or my adopted daughter?" In this life, when I opened my eyes, I was sitting in my boudoir, still clutching a jade pendant in my hand. It was the one Chu Lang had personally given me 5 years ago, before I marched to the frontier. "Ah Yuan, as long as you return alive, I will marry you as my wife." I had clung to those words through countless sleepless, pain-filled nights. The room blazed with red wedding decorations, so glaring they dragged my mind straight back to the battlefield. My chest grew heavy. I rose and pushed open the window. A spring breeze swept in, and my thoughts drifted with it. My mother died early. My father spent his life campaigning on distant frontiers. I grew up with my elder brother climbing trees to catch cicadas, swinging spears and staffs, without a single trace of a proper young lady's grace. When I turned 8, father finally had a rare stretch of leisure and hired a tutor to teach me to read. "Little Yuan," he said, "your father has never studied a single book. Even as a great general, I'm nothing but a rough soldier. You're a girl. If you turn out as crude as your father, no one will ever dare marry you." But I was hopelessly mischievous. In just 2 short years I drove 8 tutors to resign in fury, until no scholar in the capital would set foot in our residence. Father had no choice but to dress me in boys' clothes and send me to the strictest private academy in the capital. It was spring then too. The day I stepped through those academy gates, one glance was all it took. I saw Chu Lang. He wore a faded blue robe and sat by the window reciting poetry, sunlight gilding his elegant profile. The slingshot slipped from my fingers and clattered to the floor. He turned at the sound, smiling gently. "New little brother? If you don't mind, would you like to sit with me?" That smile had ruined my entire previous life. "General, there's a strong wind by the window. You've only just recovered from serious injuries. You mustn't catch cold." My personal guard's soft reminder pulled me back to the present. I came to my senses, casually tossed the now smooth jade pendant onto the table, and curved my lips in a faint smile. "This general is hardly that delicate. Prepare my horse. This general is going to the palace." "You wanted to call off the engagement, didn't you personally request the marriage decree before the entire court?" In the imperial study, the emperor past 40 set down his vermilion brush and raised an eyebrow at me. "How many people tried to advise you back then?" Minister Chu had already taken a wife, yet what did you say? I had knelt before the throne that day, head bowed low. Fresh from the frontier, silver armor still on my body, cloak still stained with blood, I had stood in the great hall and declared in a voice that shook the rafters, if I could not marry him as his wife, I would rather cast off my armor, return to the countryside, and grow old alone. The memory made my face burn. "Your Majesty is speaking to you," I sniffed. "If my father were still alive?" "Fine, fine. Your Majesty won't be harsh with me anymore. If you have something to say, stand up and speak properly." I rose slowly, still rubbing my knees. The emperor laughed despite himself. "Enough pretending. I promised your father I would look after you more carefully, and I keep my word. Speak. What grievance is so great that you want me to break my own decree?" I pouted. "Last night my elder brother came to me in a dream and said Chu Lang is no good man, and he does not approve of this marriage." The teacup the emperor had just lifted trembled violently, splashing hot tea across his hand. He set it down at once. "You little brat. I was trying to comfort you and you dare brush me off like this." I looked up, the corner of my mouth twitching. "Elder brother is like a father. His words must be obeyed." The emperor's chest heaved. He pointed at me for a long moment, speechless. I quickly produced the military tally, raised it above my head with both hands, and bowed. When I first returned, I was preoccupied with the marriage and forgot to hand over the tally. "Please forgive me, Your Majesty." He examined the tally carefully, placed it in its box with solemn respect, then took a slow sip of tea before speaking. "In light of the Li family's generations of loyal service, I will indulge you. But since you yourself requested this marriage before the court, you will be the one to withdraw it before the court." I have no desire to be scolded by the censors. Thank you for your majesty's grace. Seizing the moment his mood had softened, I bowed and withdrew. Early the next morning, I donned my formal second-rank Agile Cavalry General's court robes and walked slowly toward the Golden Throne Hall. Officials already filled the chamber, clustered around Chulang offering congratulations. I spotted him at once, 25, jade-like features, handsome and composed, accepting their flattery with easy grace. He saw me, smiled, and gave a slight nod. Before my rebirth, that familiar smile would have sent my heart racing. I would have rushed straight to him. Now I merely nodded in return and walked at a measured pace to the foremost position among the military officials. The hall fell silent. Every eye turned toward me, yet I did not look away. The old chancellor at the head of the civil officials nodded once. I returned the gesture. Footsteps approached from behind. I tilted my head. Chu Lang. Ah Yuan, why are you not waiting at the general's residence for me to fetch the bride? I adjusted my sleeve, avoiding the hand that reached for it. Minister Chu jests. Today is no holiday. This general has returned in triumph. Of course I must attend court on time. Chu Lang froze. The chancellor shot him a cold glance. Do not be disrespectful to General Li. Chu Lang bowed hastily and retreated to his place. Those who had surrounded him scattered at once. The court bell rang. Officials took their positions. I stood at the head of the western military line, less than a full row behind me. The eastern civil officials filled 3 complete rows. After the ritual cries of, "Long live your majesty," the emperor bade everyone rise and the session began. I heard nothing. My mind drifted until the hall grew quiet once more and the emperor's gaze settled on me. Ministers, if there is no further business. I stepped forward at once and dropped to one knee. General Li Yuan begs your majesty to revoke the marriage decree. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Civil officials murmured. Military officials drew sharp, uneven breaths. The emperor's eyes swept the hall before he spoke calmly. General Li, what is the meaning of this? I recited the speech I had prepared. Yesterday this general offered sacrifices at my parents' ancestral tablets, grateful for your majesty's grace that allowed a solitary woman the chance to repay the throne and win merit. I suddenly understood that marrying into the inner quarters would waste that grace. This general is only 24. I can still guard your majesty's frontiers for more than 10 years and keep the Man tribe from invading. The emperor blinked, then nodded with clear pleasure. General Li possesses such a loyal heart. I am deeply pleased. Rise. I returned to my place and caught Chu Lang staring at me in confusion. The emperor turned to him. Minister Chu, do you have any opinion? Chu Lang stepped forward at once. Your Majesty, this minister has words to speak. This minister admires General Li's devotion to the realm, yet the nation's safety should not be purchased with a woman's lifelong happiness. If this minister could marry General Li, I would never confine her to the inner quarters. Should she wish to go to the border, this minister will prepare provisions. Should she wish to ride to battle, this minister will hold the rear. This minister is willing to be the shield at her back, freeing her from all future worries. Who decreed that a woman must live only in the inner quarters after marriage? This minister is willing to shatter that convention and support General Li as she continues to be the heroine who rides across battlefields. Before my rebirth, those fervent words would have melted me. Now every gaze swung toward me. Seeing my calm face, the officials began to whisper. Minister Chu truly understands the greater good. The marriage was requested by General Li herself. Now she wishes to cancel it on the wedding day. Truly, both sides are at fault. My hearing is too sharp. I must pretend I heard nothing. No wonder elder brother said the court is a battlefield for scholars. No wonder father wanted me to study harder. At that moment a figure stepped from the military line. Your Majesty, please allow this General Zhao Gang to speak a few words. I raised an eyebrow. Zhao Gang, my usually silent deputy. Why now? The emperor gestured. Speaks freely, General Zhao. Zhao Gang glanced at me, expression complicated, then faced Chu Lang. This general is a rough soldier and cannot speak as prettily as Minister Chu. This general has only one question. When General Li lay gravely wounded and unconscious, she still clutched the jade pendant you gave her, murmuring your name. She crossed the gates of hell and survived to marry you. So why have you already taken a wife? Chu Lang's mouth opened and closed, no sound emerging. Zhao Gang's words poured out like an army through open gates. General Li did not mind that you already had a wife. That was her generosity. But it does not mean the brothers in the army are convinced. Had this marriage not been requested by General Li herself, you would have been beaten senseless with sacks long ago. Now that she no longer wishes to marry you, what nonsense are you spouting? Everything you just said, any brother here could do it, and do it better. I shot Zhao Gang a warning glare. Speak so bluntly in open court? Threatened to beat a minister with sacks? Is this how I taught you? Such things are done quietly. Chu Lang seized the opening at once. Your Majesty, this minister accuses General Zhao of openly threatening a court official, blatant contempt for the law. The emperor's voice remained mild. I permitted General Zhao to speak, it is no matter. Minister Chu, you have yet to answer his question. Chu Lang's pointing arm froze mid-air. Then he dropped to his knees and kowtowed hard. Your Majesty, this minister has unspeakable difficulties. 2 years ago, Yuan led a lone force deep into enemy territory and vanished. Everyone said that army would never return. I narrowed my eyes, remembering the night I led 2,000 guards in a surprise raid from the rear, horses gagged, hooves wrapped, marching only by darkness for a full month, striking straight into Amu Khan's main camp and pushing the front line north 500 li. This minister was frantic day and night, wishing to ride to the northern frontier many times, even prepared a coffin to follow her. But my mother suddenly fell gravely ill. The physician said she would not survive that winter. Her only dying wish was to see this minister marry and continue the family line. I was 23. Filial piety is the foremost virtue. I could only agree through tears and marry to bring her joy. Ha! Chu Lang's tongue is truly sharp. In our academy days, his eloquence and debate was what I admired most, far surpassing my father and my taciturn elder brother. The sorrow on Chu Lang's face vanished in an instant. The corner of his mouth lifted. Perhaps my filial piety moved heaven itself. After the marriage, my mother miraculously recovered. She lives still, and last year even bore me a son. This minister truly cannot bear to be an ungrateful wretch who abandons his wife to marry Yuan. I stood frozen. After knowing him so many years, I had never realized he could change faces faster than turning a page. Before my rebirth, I would have swallowed every poisonous word. But I was no longer that naive girl. Murmurs rose among the civil officials. So it was a marriage to bring joy to his mother, perfectly understandable. Minister Chu's pure filial piety is a model for us all. I picked at my ear and smiled. Then this general asks you, if you cherish your wife so deeply you cannot abandon her, why did you not refuse when this general publicly requested the marriage decree? If you were moved by my deep affection then, why cling now that I no longer wish to marry? Chu Lang stood like a strangled duck, mouth agape, frozen. The civil officials who had praised him moments earlier fell silent, eyes darting uneasily. Foxes, the lot of them. Who cannot see through this little scheme? The emperor's eyes narrowed, voice deceptively calm. Minister of the Dali Temple, investigate the medical records of Minister Chu's mother these past years. One discrepancy, and it is the crime of deceiving the sovereign. The Dali Temple minister stepped forward at once. Chu Lang's legs buckled. He kowtowed so hard the sound echoed. This minister would never dare deceive the sovereign. Your Majesty, please investigate clearly. The emperor flicked his sleeve and rose. I am weary. General Li's marriage will be discussed once the matter is clarified. Court dismissed. After the emperor departed, civil officials deliberately avoided Chu Lang by several paces, flattering him on the way in, despising him on the way out. I signaled Zhao Gang and strode away. He followed a step behind in silence. We had not gone far when Chu Lang's voice called after us. Yuan, wait. I stopped and turned. He had run the entire way, official hat askew. He tried to approach. Zhao Gang blocked him 2 steps away. Chu Lang panted. What is wrong with you today? Did someone speak nonsense in front of you? I narrowed my eyes. Are you hiding something from this general? His gaze flickered, then he adopted a wounded expression. Yuan, I have always been honest and open with you. The sun and moon bear witness. I curved my lips. Then why ask such a question? He adjusted his hat and coughed. These years my words in court have been sharp. I have offended many colleagues. If anyone slandered me to you, it must be envy, fear that after I marry you my reputation will only grow, harming them. I know little of court intrigue, yet I understand one truth. Whatever the enemy desperately conceals or protects is their fatal weakness. That is how I located Amu Khan's main force during the lone army raid. I answered evenly. No one said anything. I simply no longer wish to marry anyone. Chu Lang exhaled in obvious relief and opened his mouth to speak again. But Chief Steward Wang came hurrying over. General Li, His Majesty summons you to the Imperial Study. I nodded and followed. As I passed Zhao Gang, I felt the hostility radiating from him and glanced over. He was staring fixedly at Chu Lang. I patted his shoulder as usual. Let's go. Don't stand here. My intention was for him to return. A rough man like you dueling with civil officials, you survived bloody frontier battles, yet you could be schemed to death by words. Yet you still follow me. I turned and waved him off, but he continued trailing a step behind as though he saw nothing. I sighed. I would discipline him properly once we returned. Girl, sit, chat with me a while. The emperor sat beside an antique tea table and beckoned. I bowed simply and dropped into the seat opposite without ceremony. I stared at the complicated old tea set, unsure where to begin. The emperor brewed tea with practiced ease while speaking slowly. Today your words in court moved me deeply and reminded me of your father. I straightened at once, head lowered respectfully. Back then, when the Man tribe drove south all the way to Zhangbei, my imperial father led the court south to Jiangnan. Only I, filled with indignation, remained in Zhangbei as a prince, prepared to die. It was your father who led 2,000 Li family cavalry in a surprise attack few against many, helping me hold Zhangbei and proving to the court in Jiangnan that the Man tribe was not invincible. He pushed a prepared cup of tea toward me, the cup offered in my father's honor. I accepted it with both hands and bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Majesty. In the battle to force the Yellow River crossing that year, your father knew those who crossed first would surely die, yet he still led the way. As great general he set the example, inspiring the army behind him with fearless spirit wave after wave charging forward without pause. Before departing he asked only one thing of me, take good care of his 2 children. Your elder brother I could not protect. What about you, girl? My nose stung. I drew a quiet breath and said nothing. The emperor's tone sharpened suddenly. Today in court Zhao Gang said you were gravely wounded and unconscious. Why did your report mention only light injuries? My hand trembled on the cup. I forced a smile. Was I not afraid you would worry? Afraid you would summon me back midway? He slammed the cup down so hard the table shook. I thought your injury minor and approved the immediate counterattack. But did you ever consider if you led that lone force with serious wounds and failed to return? How would I explain myself to your father? I set the cup down quickly, rolled up my left sleeve and smiled with curved eyes. It is not as serious as Zhao Gang claimed, only this knife scar on my arm. It will heal in 2 or 3 days and affects nothing. Did the surprise attack not succeed? Look, I am still jumping about lively, am I not? The emperor stared at the long scar, a flicker of pain in his eyes, then snorted. Falsely reporting injuries is also deceiving the sovereign. Summon Zhao Gang, let him speak. Girl, you will continue making mistakes. I rose slowly and went to the door. Later, whatever His Majesty asks, do not speak nonsense, otherwise, back at camp I will make you regret it. I led Zhao Gang inside and whispered the warning. He nodded obediently. I remained standing beside him, ready to intervene if needed. Zhao Gang started to kneel, but the emperor spoke first. General Zhao, no ceremony, I ask you. The grave wounds and unconsciousness you mentioned in court, why have I seen nothing of it in the reports? Zhao Gang froze and looked at me. I kicked him lightly. What are you staring at me for? Do you want me to admit I deceived the sovereign by writing lightly wounded? His Majesty is asking you, speak. Zhao Gang did not dodge. He asked me softly, how should this subordinate answer? Are the 2 of you treating me as deaf and blind? Tell the truth or face the charge of deceiving the sovereign. Zhao Gang dropped to his knees and tugged my robe hem. I had no choice but to kneel beside him. There are outsiders here. I cannot be too arrogant or I will ruin my subordinate. Zhao Gang cleared his throat and recounted everything. After that defeat the general fought on despite her wounds so more brothers could retreat. Excessive blood loss left her unconscious for a full day and night. Only when this subordinate carried her back to camp did I hear her murmuring. Upon waking she immediately wrote a report requesting battle and summoned us for a meeting. She said the enemy would never expect an immediate counterattack after defeat, and that the surprise must be absolute. That is how we struck Amu Khan's main camp. The great victory that followed turned the tide of war. Yet he remembered every word she spoke 2 years ago so clearly. The emperor tapped the table, then asked, then why must a wounded person go personally? This subordinate also tried to dissuade her. She said the mission was too dangerous, odds too low. Anyone else might think they were being sent as cannon fodder. If they faltered midway, the surprise would fail. Only if she led personally would those 2,000 possess unbreakable morale. The main army waiting in support would never abandon them. The tapping ceased. Long silence. I looked up. The emperor was staring at me, eyes red, as though seeing my father through me. When our gazes met, he lifted his head slight, voice thick. Girl, you have been too reckless. I no longer wish you to guard the frontiers. You are already 24. You must quickly give old Li an heir. I lowered my head at once. In this life I will marry no one. Zhao Gang's fist clenched on his knee. The emperor sipped tea to steady himself. Rise. Girl, speak honestly, what grievance weighs on you so heavily that you suddenly seem so despairing? You circled and circled just now. That is not like you at all. Zhao Gang helped me stand, glancing at me with clear confusion. I closed my eyes and saw the wedding night of my previous life once more. When I removed my clothes, the eagerness on Chu Lang's face had turned to horror and disgust. He refused to approach another half step. No matter how many old scars covered my body, even I no longer remembered them all. Those military merits I had always been proud of had terrified him. All the sweet words, all the lifelong promises, shattered against his clear rejection. My self-respect and pride had been ground to dust in that single moment. If even Chu Lang, whom I had known since childhood, could not accept me, then who could? Sensing my emotions spiraling, the Emperor's voice grew urgent. Girl, remember this. You are not a lonely woman. You need not bear everything alone. Tell me, and I will decide for you. The tears I had held back burst forth. I cried until I could not speak. Girl, why are you crying again? General Li, quickly withdraw your divine powers. Your subordinate is still here. I froze, opened my eyes, and looked at Zhao Gang. His mouth hung open, left hand hovering before me, trembling. Even he fears me? Am I truly that terrifying? I tried to turn away, shoulders shaking. He placed his hand on my shoulder and pressed down gently, the same way I had comforted him after every defeat. I remembered who I was, wiped my face roughly, and turned back. This general is fine. I made you worry. My voice did not sound like the one I used in camp. Zhao Gang's gaze was different too. When I turned, his hand had not fully withdrawn and brushed my face. His breathing grew more ragged than mine had been. A soft cough from the Emperor broke the moment. Zhao Gang snatched his hand back and turned aside, ears flushed crimson. I finally stopped sobbing. When I looked up, the Emperor was smiling at me. Our eyes met. He immediately lowered his head for a sip of tea, then spoke in his normal tone. Well then, tell me, what exactly caused my top general of the 3 armies to lose composure so completely? I straightened at once and rolled up my left sleeve again, revealing the long scar. There are many scars like this on this general's body. Even I no longer remember how many. Before I finished, Zhao Gang spoke. 8 places in total, 3 ordinary knife wounds, 5 arrow wounds. The abdominal knife wound is the longest, the shoulder arrow wound the deepest, the left chest arrow wound only recently healed and closest to a vital point. I whipped my head around and glared, signaling him to stop. As expected, the Emperor slammed his cup down once more. How many more things are you hiding from me? Must I punish you before you take me seriously? I dropped to my knees at once, head bowed, voice still thick with tears. This general accepts punishment. Your Majesty may deal with me as you see fit. Out. Out. Return to the general's residence at once. You are confined for half a month. Recover fully before we speak again. Wang Delu informed the Imperial Medical Academy to send several senior physicians and a female doctor to the general's residence. Examine her injuries thoroughly. I want Zhang Yuan's personal report. I scrambled up and fled the Imperial study like smoke. Behind me, the Emperor's still angry voice rang out. Zhao Gong, you stay. I told you to keep quiet, told you not to speak too much, now face my anger yourself. I glanced at Zhao Gang's panicked eyes and slammed the door shut. My chest ached dully. I had lost control and cried too hard. In my previous life, I died tonight when old wounds reopened. This time I could not die so easily. It would be too unworthy. I returned to my residence by carriage precisely at the hour of the snake. Lanterns and red knots still decorated the gates. The wedding procession waited outside. Spectators had gathered in growing numbers. Chu Lang had arrived before me, mounted on a tall horse dressed in red wedding robes with a large red flower on his chest. I narrowed my eyes, lifted the curtain, and stepped down, fury simmering. Before I could speak, he dismounted and approached, face full of deep affection. Ah, Yuan, you have finally returned. Did His Majesty make things difficult for you? I realized I had never truly understood him before. But the dull pain in my chest had not faded, and I had no patience for entanglement. I adjusted my court sleeve and said coldly, "Move aside. This general wishes to return home." The eunuch delivering the imperial decree arrived at that exact moment. Agile Cavalry General Li Yuan concealed her injuries and failed to report them, punished with 1 month of house arrest for self-reflection. I blinked. Wasn't it half a month? Zhao Gang, what did that big mouth say now? The watching commoners stood stunned, yet none mocked me. Their gazes held new respect. Chu Lang frowned. This decree arrived at the perfect time. I accepted it casually and spoke to the procession in an icy voice. This general has been punished and is in poor spirits. I will not marry today. Everyone, please return. I brushed past Chu Lang and entered the residence, then shouted at the guards. Did you not hear the decree? Close the gates and tear down all this bloody red nonsense. It is an eyesore. Chu Lang and the others' stunned faces disappeared behind the closing doors. A guard reported that physicians from the Imperial Medical Academy had arrived. I ordered them inside. Chief Physician Zhang took my pulse himself and frowned. General, your pulse is irregular. Are there still internal injuries? I answered calmly. In the final battle at the northern frontier, the enemy feigned surrender. When this general accepted it, I was struck by a cold arrow, nearly a fatal wound. More than a month has passed since our triumphant return. The injury has closed. He stroked his white beard. Does the area still feel uncomfortable? I admitted the dull ache in my chest. He nodded. The exterior may have healed, yet the internal damage has not fully recovered. May the female physician examine the wound to confirm? I nodded without thinking. But when we entered the bedroom and she asked me to undress, panic surged. Chulang's horrified, disgusted face flashed before my eyes, my chest seized with sudden, violent pain. I doubled over, clutching myself, breathing fast. General, this subordinate must perform acupuncture immediately. Forgive me. She quickly removed my court robes, helped me lie flat, and skillfully stripped away my middle garments. I heard sharp intakes of breath but kept my eyes shut, terrified her face would show the same revulsion. When the needles were in place, I heard her voice, thick with anger. Is there no armor in the army? How did you sustain so many wounds? A clear tingling spread from each needle. After a while the pain eased. I opened my eyes a fraction. She was bent over the scar on my abdomen, face full of heartache. I breathed out in relief and said slowly, I do not possess my father's strength, nor my elder brother's height, nor Zhao Gang's powerful frame. Heavy full armor would prevent me from swinging a saber, so I wear only lighter fish-scale armor. She looked up, reproachful. But you are commander-in-chief. Should you not remain in the central tent? How could the enemy wound you? I was silent a few breaths. In the first 3 years I led the army, the brothers did not reject me simply because I was a woman. They respected me as general, not because of my father or elder brother. Only after the surprise attack 2 years ago, when I led from the front and turned the tide, did they truly submit. She stood straight, gaze steady. I met it without flinching. From that day forward, whenever I charged, the brothers followed until my position returned to the center. When I personally killed an enemy, they competed to kill 3. Wherever my command flag passed, 3,000 troops fought with the momentum of 10,000. With such words, what do a few injuries matter? The Man tribe believed shooting me during the feigned surrender would shatter our morale and give them victory. When I opened my eyes, the battle was already won, and the brothers were urging me to return triumphantly. She dropped into a deep bow. This subordinate Xiaoman understands. I blinked. You are Xiaoman? The one called Lady Xiaoman? She nodded and began removing the needles. I asked, voice trembling, I heard you are skilled in beauty and skincare arts. Can you remove the scars on my body? After the last needle, she packed her bag and looked puzzled. These are the military merits you earned, driving back the Man tribe and pacifying the northern frontier. Why remove them? Let this subordinate count them carefully so I may report to His Majesty as well. Warmth flooded my chest, my eyes grew hot, but when she reached for more of my clothing, I sat up quickly, fastened my garments, and laughed despite myself. This general was just punished with house arrest for concealing injuries. Are you planning to file another complaint? The decree is still in my sleeve. Would you like to see it? Xiaoman raised an eyebrow. Why did I hear His Majesty granted you a full month's leave and ordered the Imperial Medical Academy to restore your health completely within that time? You do not believe me? The Emperor's personal instruction is still with Chief Physician Zhang. Do you wish to see it? I stood and donned my outer robe. She raised a hand to stop me, brows drawn tight. You just walked through the gates of hell. Will you not let this subordinate examine you thoroughly? My heart lurched. In my previous life, I died today. The symptoms had begun exactly like this. My 24th year had barely begun and I had already crossed the gates of hell twice. No, 3 times if I counted the cold arrow incident. I cupped my fists and bowed deeply. Thank you for saving my life just now, miss. Examine as you please. This general will cooperate fully. Only then did she smile. That is more like it. If you do not value yourself, how anxious will your brothers be? Remove your clothes yourself. This subordinate must examine your entire body. My face burned crimson as I slowly complied. Xiaoman examined with meticulous care, asking many questions. While I dressed again, I listened to her conclusions. The old wound on your abdomen appears severe but does not affect future childbearing. However, if you wish to bear children, it is best within these 3 years. The arrow wound on your chest, although the exterior has healed, internal damage remains. Please rest and recover well. Avoid emotional agitation. Maintain a cheerful mood. So that is why. No wonder I felt the injuries had healed yet still crossed the gates of hell twice today. I changed into black casual robes and left the bedroom with her. Chief Physician Zhang and the 2 senior imperial physicians listened to her report, took turns checking my pulse, conferred and wrote prescriptions. Add several jars of scar removal ointment for General Li as well. Xiaoman glanced at the prescription and spoke softly. Chief Physician Zhang, you old fool, seeing only the general and forgetting General Li is also a young lady. The old man added the item at once. My heart trembled with gratitude. I smiled at Xiaoman, warmth blooming in my chest. I had just seen the imperial physicians out through the residence gates when Zhao Gang came galloping up on horseback, a full squad of imperial guards in gleaming golden armor following behind him. I snapped in anger. What did you say to His Majesty this time? How did 2 weeks of house arrest suddenly become 1 month? Zhao Gang dismounted and stepped forward. This subordinate only reported honestly that after you were struck by the cold arrow, you remained unconscious for 3 full days and nights. Xiaoman drew in a sharp breath and turned to stare at me. You were unconscious for 3 days and nights? Yet when you speak of it, it sounds as though you merely blinked and woke up? I scratched my head. Had I really been unconscious that long? Why did I have no memory of it at all? Zhao Gang nodded heavily. This subordinate had already led the men to slaughter every last one of those feigning surrender beasts before returning, yet you still had not woken. There is absolutely no mistake. So the final battle had lasted 3 entire days? Why had they only reported 1 day to me? Who had taught them this habit of underreporting? I glanced at the imperial guards behind him and sighed, remembering the emperor. I would have to help Zhao Gang and the others cover this up again, or they would be punished. The report sent to His Majesty only mentioned 1 day. This burden still fell on me. With so many debts already, what was 1 more? At worst, another 2 weeks of house arrest. But I still raised an eyebrow at the squad of guards. What is the meaning of this? This subordinate has received His Majesty's order to guard the general's residence and ensure you remain obediently inside to recover. Where is the decree? Show it to this general. This general is not so easily fooled. To my surprise, Zhao Gang actually produced a handwritten imperial edict and handed it over. I snatched it, scanned it, snorted coldly, and tossed it back. Excellent. House arrest has become full confinement. This general is tired. I am going to sleep and make up for lost time. Everyone, do as you please. With the imperial guards sealing the gates, I left that parting remark and turned back into the residence. I slept straight through until midday. Zhao Gang woke me for the meal. The thought of an entire month without rising early for court or seeing Chu Lang's face lifted my mood at once. In my previous life, today had been the wedding day. In this life, I had kept my small life. I felt I absolutely must drink a large cup in celebration. I rubbed my still sleepy eyes, plopped down in the head seat of the dining hall, and called out grandly, "Bring wine." Zhao Gang did not move. The physician said no alcohol until your injuries are fully healed. My good mood vanished by half. I looked at the dishes on the table. Why is everything so bland? Zhao Gang accepted a bowl of medicine from a guard and set it down in front of me with a clack. The physicians also said you must avoid certain foods while taking medicine. I stared at the pitch-black bowl emitting a foul stench. My small face immediately scrunched up. The remaining half of my good mood disappeared completely. I picked up my rice bowl and glared at Zhao Gang while eating. What are you still standing there for? Blocking this general's view? Zhao Gang immediately turned to leave. I slammed my chopsticks on the table. This general told you to sit down and eat. Do you not understand? With so much food, how is this general supposed to finish it all? Zhao Gang froze, hurriedly fetched another set of bowl and chopsticks, filled a bowl with rice, and sat opposite me, head lowered as he ate. His back faced the door, he sat against the light, I could not clearly see his face. Watching him pick at the food cautiously and eat rice in tiny bites, I slammed my bowl down again. What is wrong with you today? Ever since court this morning you have been acting strange, nothing like yourself. Zhao Gang's chopsticks paused in midair. He looked up at me but said nothing. I grew even more annoyed. The matter of falsely reporting military conditions. This general will bear it alone. After all, I wrote the report myself. What are you so tense about? Zhao Gang immediately set down his bowl and chopsticks and lowered his head. His Majesty scolded you, didn't he? Speak. What exactly does Majesty say? I tossed a chopstick over to him. He caught it and returned it to me with both hands. His Majesty did indeed punish this subordinate, blame the subordinate for failing to protect you properly. I accepted the chopstick in a daze and said softly, it was this general's own carelessness at the time. I thought once I accepted that surrender letter, the war that had dragged on for more than 20 years could finally end. I continued. When I was 4, Mother led my elder brother and me south. The Man tribe is coming, she said, but Father was not by our side. At 5, Mother passed away in Zhongbei. At 10, my elder brother led me into the cargo hold of a boat crossing the river. A year later, father finally found us among the refugees in Jiangnan. By then he was already a great general. He brought us to live in a grand mansion, but within days he left again for Jiangbei. Only when I turned 8 did father finally have time to return home. Worried I would never marry, he even invited you to teach me to read. My nose stung. I drew a quiet breath. Zhao Gang placed his handkerchief on the table and gently pushed it toward me. I looked up and glared at him. This general is only a little moved. Do you think this general is about to cry again? Zhao Gang actually nodded. I laughed in exasperation. This general is not that fragile. This general simply feels that these quiet days of sitting down to eat together are truly too rare. Zhao Gang blinked, then nodded vigorously and began eating on his own. But before long, tears filled his eyes. I handed him my handkerchief and comforted him softly. Enough, enough. No matter how difficult it was, we have already overcome it. We must live well for the sake of our fallen brothers. Zhao Gang immediately burst into tears, accepted my handkerchief, and rushed out of the dining hall. I curved my lips. Suddenly, the embarrassment of losing face in front of him this morning no longer felt so shameful. We are reconciled. I looked down at the square handkerchief still lying beside my hand and suddenly felt I had been a little rude just now. I should have returned his handkerchief to him. Why had I casually taken out my own? I finished the remaining food, drank the medicine, and prepared to stroll in the rear courtyard to aid digestion. 4 dishes and 1 soup were too much. I could not waste them. I was far too full. I must tell the kitchen that 2 dishes would suffice for dinner. 1 foot had already stepped out of the dining hall when I turned back and tucked Zhao Gang's handkerchief into my sleeve. If I ran into him during my walk, I could return it and exchange for my own. Midday spring sunlight blazed brightly. I found Zhao Gang in the training ground inside the residence. He had stripped to the waist and was furiously striking a wooden training dummy, sweat flying in glittering arcs. On his powerful right arm ran a scar like a centipede crawling across it. That was the wound he had taken while shielding me. I remembered it clearly. I suddenly realized he also remembered every single one of my scars with perfect clarity, their locations, depth, severity, and numbers almost exactly matching Xiaoman's examination results. Could it be that after this latest coma, he has already seen every inch of me? I strode forward and demanded fiercely, Zhao Gang, this general asks you, why do you know every scar on this general's body so clearly, and why does it match the physician's examination results exactly? Zhao Gang suddenly stopped. He stood dazed for a moment, then his face flushed crimson. Even his throat moved slightly. My anger surged at once. I rolled up the sleeves of my casual robes and stepped onto the sparring platform in the training ground. Come. Bullying a wooden post hardly counts as heroic. Let this general test you. Zhao Gang immediately raised both hands above his head. The physicians ordered you to rest quietly. Besides, you just finished eating. I ground my teeth and shouted, guards. The male guards nearby instantly formed ranks before the platform. General Zhao's hands are itching. All of you go up and train properly with General Zhao. With that, I stepped down from the platform and stood with arms folded watching. Zhao Gang glanced at me, then leapt onto the platform in 2 or 3 bounds and shouted at the 5 men, come at me together. Do not waste the general's midday rest. The 5 of them looked toward me in unison. I laughed in exasperation and waved toward the platform. All 5 leapt up at once. In less than half a quarter hour, all 5 lay defeated. I scolded them sternly. With this general standing here empty-handed, you still go easy on him like this? Have you not eaten? One clutched his stomach and replied, General, it is not yet time for the shift change. We truly have not eaten yet. I fell silent for a moment, then waved them off. No wonder everyone looks weak-limbed and soft-handed. All of you down. Go eat immediately, then add 5 extra laps to tomorrow's training. I glanced again at the certain someone surnamed Zhao standing on the platform with arms crossed, looking thoroughly pleased with himself, then turned and left. But the image of Zhao Gang half-naked, single-handedly fighting 5 men seemed to have burned itself into my mind. Eyes closed or open, the scene of that fight kept replaying before me. By the time I rested at noon, Zhao Gang was still fighting back and forth inside my head, torso bare, powerful muscles shifting from shoulders to abdomen, lines sharp, angles distinct. I suddenly thought of something and woke completely. I dressed neatly and went looking for Zhao Gang. After circling the entire residence without finding him, I asked a guard and headed straight for the main gate. I opened the gate and instructed the guards there. As soon as the doors opened, the Imperial guards outside immediately turned and cupped their fists. General, you cannot leave the residence. I ignored him. My gaze swept the area, still no sign of Zhao Gang. Instead, Zhao Gang appeared from somewhere and cupped his fists. General, do you wish to go out? If there is something important, simply give the subordinate the order. Seeing him fully armored, I snorted coldly. This general asks you. I felt the Imperial Guards as on me. Commoners passed outside. The words reached my lips and stuck there. I grabbed Zhao Gang by the arm, dragged him inside the gates and shut the door. After walking a few steps into the residence, I waved the nearby guards away. Only when they had retreated did I turn and look straight into Zhao Gang's eyes, asking softly, "Are this general's body full of scars truly that frightening?" Zhao Gang froze. My nose stung. I turned to leave. He rushed in front of me and blocked my path. "Why would you ask that?" "So I only brought this humiliation upon myself. I let my emotions get the better of me. I shouldn't have asked." My eyes grew hot. I quickened my pace around him and headed straight for my bedroom. "General, you are the most beautiful woman in the world." The loud shout from behind made me stop abruptly. The guards who had scattered earlier poked their heads out one by one, chiming in agreement. General Zhao is right. This subordinate thinks so too. I covered my mouth with one hand and fled to my bedroom. The moment the door closed, I pulled the blanket over my head and cried while laughing. This is not good. My emotions are too agitated. My chest is aching again. I threw off the blanket and shouted toward the window. "Quickly go invite physician Xiaoman here." Then I lay flat, clutching my chest, forcing myself to breathe slowly. Only then did the pain ease slightly. Zhao Gang stood outside the window, glanced at me, and immediately turned and strode away. He had not been gone long before he returned with Xiaoman. When Xiaoman entered my bedroom, a cloth bundle still hung from her shoulder. Zhao Gang stood guard outside the window, sweat glittering on his forehead under the sunlight. Perhaps sensing the doubt on my face, Xiaoman spoke first. "His Majesty heard that you suddenly suffered a relapse of old injuries and nearly died. He ordered this subordinate to remain in your residence and keep watch over you at all times." She set the bundle on the table and quickly came forward to take my pulse. "What are you doing? You already performed acupuncture this morning. Why has it relapsed this afternoon?" I glanced at Zhao Gang outside the window, his face tense, and did not know how to begin. "Why is your pulse beating so fast?" Xiaoman frowned, followed my gaze out the window, immediately stood and closed the window, then sat beside the bed and asked softly, "When was your last menstrual period?" I thought for a moment. "About 2 weeks ago." Xiaoman nodded. "Then it is exactly the time when qi and blood are surging. No wonder your pulse is so active." I listened in confusion. She leaned close to my ear. "Could it be that your heart has been stirred?" I immediately recalled the dream from my midday nap, and my face flushed scarlet. This is not strange. After all, today was originally supposed to be my wedding day. Tonight would have been the wedding night. My heart suddenly clenched. Xiaoman's fingers on my wrist pressed harder. "General, I was only joking. Do not get agitated. Breathe deeply first. I will fetch a heart-saving pill for you." She stood at once, rummaged in the bundle, poured out a small pill, and fed it to me. Then she called out the window for a bowl of warm water. The figure outside the window finally left. I swallowed the pill and said softly, "Sorry, I frightened you." Xiaoman blinked, took my pulse again, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank goodness. The heart-saving pill is starting to work. Keep this small porcelain bottle with you. If symptoms return, take 1 pill no more than 3 per day." I nodded. Feeling better, I sat up, accepted the bottle, and tucked it into my robe. "Thank you, Xiaoman. Stop calling yourself this subordinate. It sounds like we are still in court and makes me sleepy." "Very well." Xiaoman immediately curved her lips high. "Then I shall call you by name Li Yuan. Born on the 15th day of the month. Your father was a rough soldier. He heard a poor scholar in the village muttering about flowers blooming, moonful, people reunited, so he named you Li Yuan. Unfortunately now." I gave a soft laugh and did not continue. Xiaoman spoke gently. "My name is Xiaoman, but I was not born on the Xiaoman day. Both my parents passed away. The day my clan uncle traveled 1,000 li to find me happened to be Xiaoman day. I never met my own parents." I looked up, about to comfort her, but she patted my shoulder lightly and changed the subject. "When I arrived earlier, I heard people saying the general's residence relies on power to bully others, canceling the wedding on the actual day. Others say General Li is spoiled and arrogant, even daring to reject a marriage personally granted by His Majesty. No wonder His Majesty sent guards to surround the residence. Some even say that since General Li could frighten away the man tribe, she must have a fierce, murderous face. Minister Chu, who placed 3rd in the imperial examinations 3 years ago, was already doing her a favor by agreeing to take her as concubine, yet she still dared to cancel the wedding." I fell silent, memories surfacing. I had heard similar words countless times before. The more I heard them, the more I pitied myself, and the more I had insisted in my previous life that I would marry no one but Chu Lang. Xiaoman finished speaking, her gaze stopping at the right side of my collarbone. She spoke with indignation. Those gossiping people enjoy the peace brought by heroes, yet slander the price heroes must pay. They are not human. Right below the right collarbone was an arrow scar. Fortunately, I had managed to squat and shift left half a step in time. Xiaoman studied my expression and asked softly, "Are you alright? What exactly happened? Can you tell me?" I looked up at her but remained silent. "Do not misunderstand. I only feel you seem to have a heart ailment and wanted to find the root cause. From your earlier reaction, I guess it is related to the wedding." I lowered my head and brushed my fingers over this old wound. On rainy, gloomy days it still ached dully, but I only gave a soft laugh. This cancelled marriage was something I myself knelt in the great hall and begged for. Is that not even more laughable? I did not wait for her reply. I stood and walked to the round table. The jade pendant I had casually tossed aside yesterday now lay broken in two at the corner of the table. I bent, picked it up, and set it on the table with a crisp clack. This is the engagement jade Chulang gave me before I left for the frontier. It accompanied me through 5 years of life and death, but yesterday it broke, so I went to the palace and asked His Majesty to revoke the marriage decree. Xiaoman's eyes widened. She carefully examined the jade, then looked at me. "Just like that?" I curved my lips. "Just like that." Xiaoman studied me for a long moment, then smiled as well. "Ha, the day before the wedding the jade breaks, truly unlucky. Yet from your calm attitude, it seems you do not feel any regret. Since you have thought it through, I will not ask further." I nodded lightly and said no more. A knock sounded at the door at just the right moment. I went to open it. Zhao Gang met my eyes for an instant, then shifted his gaze to the round table behind me, as if confirming the jade pendant really had broken. I stepped aside, calmly and openly. The corner of his mouth quickly curved into a faint arc. I accepted the bowl of water, found it no longer hot, drank it all in one go, and tucked the bowl into his chest. "I am fine now. Stand farther away. No eavesdropping." Zhao Gang immediately turned and left, looking as though his hands and feet no longer belonged to him. As he stepped down the threshold, he missed a step and nearly stumbled. Once steady, his ears flushed even redder. He scratched his head in a fluster and hurried away. I sighed, closed the door, and turned to find Xiaoman's face propped on her hand, watching the show. I pushed the window open, gazed at the spring scenery outside for a moment, then returned to sit at the round table and gestured to the remaining chair. "Xiaoman, sit as well." Xiaoman nodded, poured 2 cups of tea, then slowly sat, chin propped as she looked at me. Her gaze swept over the 2 pieces of jade, her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Perhaps because of her position, or perhaps fearing I would be hurt, she ultimately did not voice the question. I took a sip of tea and spoke calmly. "From childhood until now, this is the first time a man has given me an engagement token." At 15, one single dazzling glance in the private academy had made me notice Chulang's handsome face. At first he treated me the same as everyone else, gentle, polite, yet keeping distance. But after I fought someone and lost, I blurted out, "My father is a great general." Only then did he begin to look at me differently and personally teach me to read and study. When he taught, I was especially attentive and progressed extremely fast. Even the tutors praised me endlessly. My father could not help but sigh. Every scholar in the city could not manage me. Yet this stinky boy had tamed me. He even said that once I came of age, he would personally come to propose marriage. Speaking of this, I lowered my head and drank tea, silent for a long time. Xiaoman endured for half a day before finally asking, "Then what happened after? Why did it drag on until now?" I sniffed, voice lowering. At 16, my father led troops to force the Yellow River crossing and never returned. After the 3-year mourning period, my elder brother also died in battle outside the pass. The great banner of the Li family army then fell upon my shoulders. On the very day I left for the frontier, Chulang gave me this jade pendant. That one journey lasted 5 years. Xiaoman sighed softly. "So that is how it is. Truly, fate toys with people." She gently patted the back of my hand. "But this is also good. Minister Chu is someone who climbs high. Old Madame Chu is no pushover either. 2 months ago I was invited to treat Madame Chu and happened to see old Madame Chu beating her with a cane. Fortunately, Minister Chu stepped in to stop it, saying his father-in-law was the Imperial Guard's commander and could not be offended. Only then did the old madam stop." I narrowed my eyes and gave a self-mocking laugh. 2 years ago, when my life and death were uncertain, he immediately climbed to the high branch of Imperial Guard's commander, and that person also holds military power, so my 14 years of infatuation were, in his eyes, nothing more than a military tally. I flicked my sleeve. The 2 jade pieces fell to the floor again, shattering into 7 or 8 smaller fragments. Xiaoman froze. I curved my lips once more, Shall I show you to a room first? Xiaoman immediately shouldered her bundle and tilted her chin at me. While leading the way, I deliberately slowed my pace so we walked side by side. At first, she insisted on staying half a step behind, but soon she no longer stood on ceremony. Walking level with me, she listened as I introduced my father's main wife's room, my elder brother's bedroom where our parents' and brother's spirit tablets were enshrined. She chose the bedroom closest to mine and asked where she could prepare medicine. I led her to the rear courtyard kitchen and casually instructed that the three of us would dine together, still 4 dishes and 1 soup. Xiaoman explained my dietary restrictions to the kitchen staff and carefully instructed on daily meal pairings. The cook in the residence, formerly the fire team leader in my army, listened with great attention, showing no annoyance. Xiaoman found a corner in the kitchen and began preparing tonight's medicine herself. I fetched 2 small stools, gave her one, and sat leisurely in the corner watching the medicine stove. Xiaoman glanced at me occasionally. Seeing me lost in thought, she did not disturb me. The aroma of cooking food gradually mingled with the scent of medicine. In my ears were the sizzling sounds of stir-frying vegetables mixed with the bubbling of medicine in the stove. This is the smoke and fire of human life that I risked my life to win all these years, is it not? Xiaoman suddenly handed me a handkerchief. I blinked, only then realizing tears had already soaked my clothes without my notice. I have one. I casually reached for my own handkerchief, but pulled out Zhao Gang's square handkerchief from my sleeve. After lunch I had been busy disciplining Zhao Gang and forgotten to return it. Xiaoman glanced at the square handkerchief, then at me and quickly withdrew her own. I did not use that handkerchief. I tucked it back into my sleeve, stood, went to the water vat, scooped a ladle, splashed it on my face, and wiped dry directly with my sleeve. Under Xiaoman's bewildered gaze, I left the rear courtyard and headed straight for the dining hall to wait for dinner. The food was already on the table. Xiaoman had also brought her bowl and sat down, yet Zhao Gang was still nowhere to be seen. Just as I was about to call a guard to ask, one rushed in. Bad news, General. General Zhao and Minister Chu are fighting in front of the residence gates. I slammed the table, stood and strode quickly toward the gates. Xiaoman hurried after me. General, you absolutely must not get agitated again. This is already the 3rd time today. Before we even neared the gates, I could hear the commotion outside. Open the gates, I said calmly. Outside the residence, a crowd had gathered, surrounding Zhao Gang and Chu Lang in the center. Chu Lang sat on the ground, face bruised and swollen. Zhao Gang was being pointed at and scolded by the onlookers. Shut your mouths, I shouted angrily. It is not your place to discipline this general's people. A scholar in the crowd pointed at me. It seems the rumors are true. General Li is indeed arrogant and overbearing. The crowd immediately joined in noisily. Chu Lang struggled to his feet and limped in front of me to block the way. Everyone, stop talking. Without General Li pacifying the man tribe, we would still be living in fear every day, terrified they might invade South again. An old woman sighed. The 3rd-place scholar is truly a good man. Even after being rejected, he still protects her. General Li is truly muddle-headed. Not only does she not look at the 3rd-place scholar being beaten, she even speaks up for that brute who openly assaults people in broad daylight. Xiaoman looked at me worriedly. I waved her off, turned and instructed the guards behind me to bring out a tea table and chairs plus several plates of sunflower seeds and peanuts. The guards blinked but ran off. The crowd suddenly fell silent. Continue performing. Why stop? This general's sunflower seeds have not even arrived yet. Chu Lang turned to look at me, expression chaotic. I tilted my chin at him. This general's learning is shallow. I trouble Minister Chu to instruct me. What play were you performing just now? Chairs arrived quickly. I sat down calmly and crooked a finger at Zhao Gang. Come here and massage this general's legs. Standing to watch the show is too tiring. Zhao Gang blinked, then quickly knelt on one knee beside me. I rested my right leg on his knee, placed my left hand on the armrest, propped my chin and asked, Why are you not speaking, Minister Chu? Do you not even know what play you yourself are performing? Among the spectators in front of the gates, someone could not help but laugh out loud. Chu Lang's face changed instantly, yet he still could not speak. I lowered my head and looked at Zhao Gang, whose face had turned completely red. What are you still dazed for? Does this general need to teach you how to massage legs? Zhao Gang looked up at me, as if confirming I was not joking, then carefully used both fists to gently pound my calf. I narrowed my eyes in comfort, expression lazy. If Minister Chu does not know what play to perform, then this general shall call the play. First, perform the Red Man Steed segment enduring the bitter cold of the Han Kiln for over 10 years. Chu Lang's expression shifted repeatedly. You people are truly corrupting public morals. The tea table and sunflower seeds with peanuts arrived just then. I grabbed a handful, bit one, and spat the shell toward Chu Lang. This general is watching a play in my own courtyard. Whom have I provoked? If someone wants to perform and this general enjoys watching, what of it? Chu Lang brushed the shells from his robes and pointed at me, unable to utter a word for a long time. Where has the usual eloquence of Minister Chu debating the entire court gone? You do not even know how to act in a play. Do you need this general to teach you? Xiaoman beside me clutched her stomach and laughed without restraint. Chu Lang's chest heaved violently. He glared at Xiaoman, which only made her laugh harder. Soon the surrounding crowd could no longer hold back either. Laughter spread throughout the area in front of the general's residence. Chu Lang swept his gaze around, then finally shouted loudly, "Li Yuan, today was supposed to be our wedding day. You publicly cancelled the wedding, that is one thing. But why humiliate me like this as well?" I withdrew my leg, stood, clasped my hands behind my back, walked up to Chu Lang, and swept aside the finger pointing at my nose. Then this general asks you, when this general left for the frontier, what did you promise this general? When this general personally led troops deep into enemy territory, what did you do? You said that as long as this general returned alive, you would marry this general as your wife. But when this general's life and death were uncertain, you immediately climbed to the high branch of Imperial Guard's commander. Since you have already climbed high, why not obediently coax your father-in-law and stay away from this general's residence gates? Or do you, besides military power in the capital, also want the military power of the frontier army? The crowd immediately stopped laughing. They tightened their grips on spears. Several sharp intakes of breath and tongue clicks came from the crowd. General Li speaks, thus seems it is true. Minister Chu himself is also the Minister of Revenue managing military salaries. Chu Lang's eyes widened. You are spitting venom, I said coldly. Since this general has already cancelled the wedding, why are you still lingering in front of this general's residence? Chu Lang's eyes turned red. He pointed at me again and shouted furiously, Li Yuan. Last month you begged for the decree to marry me. I even threw a banquet for my colleagues. Yet now you want to cancel it. What do you take Chu Lang for? Do you want the entire capital to laugh at me? I immediately frowned, bent over and clutched my chest. Xiaoman, my chest hurts terribly. Xiaoman rushed forward to take my pulse, instantly understanding. She turned and shouted urgently to the guards, quickly report to His Majesty. Minister Chu is causing trouble in front of the general's residence and has provoked General Li's old injuries into relapsing. I had just enough time to see Xiaoman's knowing smile before my feet left the ground. Before I could cry out, I was swept into someone's arms and carried straight into the residence. Xiaoman chased after us, calling, General Zhao, slow down. The general cannot withstand this shock right now. Zhao Gang's steps immediately slowed, yet he did not stop. He lowered his head and looked at me with eyes full of worry. That gaze was scorching anxious, burning straight to my heart until it trembled. My face instantly flushed crimson. I did not dare meet his eyes and could only bury my face deep into his chest. In my ears was the sound of his heartbeat thundering like drums, powerfully striking my eardrums. Listening and listening, my own heartbeat began to lose rhythm, pounding wildly in that narrow space. This is not good. If this continues, the heart ailment left by the arrow wound really will relapse. The heavy sound of the great gates closing rang out behind us, cutting off Chu Lang's hateful shouting. Zhao Gang, put me down, I said in a low, muffled voice against his chest. We are almost there. Endure a little longer. Zhao Gang's voice was tight. His arms only tightened further, as though afraid I would fall. I could not help but raise my hand and lightly pound his solid chest, both embarrassed and angry. You fool, I was only acting for them to see. You actually took it seriously? We reached the bedroom door. Zhao Gang stopped and asked cautiously, really? I looked up into his deep, dark eyes and replied irritably, does this general need to lie to you? Go eat first. The food is almost cold. Zhao Gang lowered his eyes and looked at me again and again, as if confirming my complexion truly showed nothing unusual. Only then did he breathe a long sigh of relief and gently set me down. The moment my feet touched the ground, I saw the man who had been so serious moments ago, his ears flushing red at a speed visible to the naked eye. He scratched his head, gaze darting away. His throat bobbed several times before he spoke hoarsely. This subordinate. The subordinate was only overly concerned and lost composure. I have offended you. Please forgive me, General. Looking at the beads of sweat on his forehead, my heart softened. In the end I said nothing reproachful. I straightened my slightly disheveled robes and led the way toward the dining hall. Xiaoman arrived just then, her gaze darting back and forth between us. I waved at her. Come, eat first. After all that commotion, I am hungry. I glanced back at Zhao Gang, still standing dazed in place. Do not stand there, come along. In the dining hall, Zhao Gang still sat with his back to the door. The moment he picked up bowl and chopsticks, he lowered his head and ate. The food has gone a little cold. I said nothing more and focused on eating. Xiaoman sat between us, her small head turning left and right continuously. When Zhao Gang finished, I also set down my chopsticks and asked softly, Speak. Why did you fight with someone in front of the residence gates? Zhao Gang's fists clenched. His voice was low and hoarse. Chulang said there must be a misunderstanding between you and him. He wanted to stand outside the gates until you calmed down. The commoners watching said you have too big a temper, and only a good-natured man like Minister Chu could tolerate you. He also said that since you just returned from the battlefield, your aura is heavy. Having a slightly worse temper is normal, and he can endure it. I narrowed my eyes and suddenly called out toward the door. Guards! Go tell your Commander Wang to send more men to investigate thoroughly. On the day His Majesty granted the marriage, when Minister Chu threw a banquet for his colleagues, what exactly did he say? The guard accepted the order and left. Xiaoman also finished eating and set down her bowl and chopsticks, looking at me. He is still hiding something from you, is he not? I nodded. It must be that so-called misunderstanding he mentioned, the kind of thing that once I knew I would never marry him. Today after court, he did not ask why I cancelled the wedding. Instead, he asked if someone had spoken ill of him in front of me, and explained that if so, it must be his colleagues out of jealousy trying to smear him. Told me not to take it to heart. Xiaoman immediately perked up. This is practically confessing without being beaten. Zhao Gang immediately slammed the table. That hypocritical gentleman definitely said nothing good. If I had known earlier, I would have hit him with another punch. I quickly finished the remaining food and drained the bowl of medicine in one go. I stood. Enough. Stop guessing. Wait for Commander Wang's investigation results. I went to the rear courtyard for an evening stroll to aid digestion. Tonight the moon was beautiful. Though not yet full, its silver light already covered the ground. Xiaoman and I walked side by side. Zhao Gang followed behind me. When we reached the stone table I was about to sit, Zhao Gang removed his outer robe and spread it over the stone bench. You have only just recovered from serious injuries. You cannot handle the cold. Xiaoman clicked her tongue and turned to admire the moon. I looked at his chest, faintly visible beneath the thin middle garment, stretched slightly taut, and immediately turned my face away, but I did not reject his kindness. I sat on his outer robe, still carrying his warmth. You sit as well. I pointed to the stone bench opposite. Zhao Gang shook his head again. This subordinate will stand. I curved my lips slightly. You have followed me for 5 years. Why are you still so formal? This subordinate is simply accustomed to standing behind you. I sighed softly. If you keep doing this, I have to turn my head to look at you. Is that not tiring? Zhao Gang froze. His breathing stopped for an instant. Only then did he properly sit opposite me. I also looked up at him and asked, speaking of which, you are already 26, right? Once this general's confinement is lifted, shall I help you find a marriage match? Zhao Gang's entire body stiffened. He shot to his feet. On his usually steady face appeared a rare trace of panic. You wish to drive this subordinate away? My expression turned serious. The position of Zhenbei General, your military merits and experience are both sufficient. This general has already delayed you for 5 years. I cannot continue keeping you by my side like this. Once I report to His Majesty, you may establish your own household and marry. This subordinate does not want that. Zhao Gang's neck stiffened as he nearly shouted. The subordinate's life was saved by the old general. Before the young general left for the frontier, he specifically instructed this subordinate to take good care of you. In this lifetime, this subordinate has no other pursuit. Only to stay by your side for life is enough. I blinked in surprise. You mean my elder brother? Zhao Gang was someone my elder brother had introduced to me. When I first took over the Li family army, it was also Zhao Gang who stepped forward to help. Zhao Gang lowered his eyes. After a long time, he said in a low voice, the year the young general left for the frontier, this subordinate originally wanted to follow as well, but the young general told this subordinate to stay and guard the main camp. He said that no matter the outcome of that battle, the banner of the Li family army must not fall, and his younger sister must not be left without protection. My nose stung instantly. Tears spilled from my eyes. So my elder brother had long ago found someone to entrust me to. Zhao Gang had always stood behind me, close enough that a simple turn of my head would bring him into view. Every time I had been gravely wounded and fallen unconscious, the first face I saw upon opening my eyes was his. During that surprise raid I led deep into enemy territory, he had remained behind to guard the main army, enduring more than a month of bitter waiting to provide support for my lone force. Yet what had I done? While unconscious on his back, I had still clutched the jade pendant Chulong gave me, still whispered Chulong's name. Li Yuan, what exactly are you doing? Crack. I raised my hand and slapped myself hard. A burning sting instantly spread across my cheek. General, two voices rang out at the same time. I clutched my numb cheek and looked through blurred vision at Zhao Gang's panicked face. His left hand hovered before me again, wanting to touch but not daring to. Xiaoman rushed over and sat beside me, reaching up to examine my right cheek. What are you doing? My voice choked. I just suddenly felt I was too stupid, hopelessly, irredeemably stupid. Zhao Gang grew frantic. Who said that? If not for your superior strategy, how could we have completely subdued the Man tribe and avenged the old general, the young general, and the tens of thousands of brothers who died? I could not help but laugh. No, I am not talking about that. You just said it yourself. As long as you can stay by my side for life, that is enough. You are not allowed to regret it. Zhao Gang immediately stood and dropped to one knee. This subordinate obeys. In this lifetime, staying by your side will bring no regret. I shook my head with a soft laugh. Fool. I casually pulled out a handkerchief to wipe my tears. Only after I finished did I realize I had taken Zhao Gang's square handkerchief again. My movement froze. Zhao Gang's gaze also locked onto the handkerchief and could not look away. I pretended nothing had happened, tucked the handkerchief back into my sleeve, and cleared my throat. Enough. Stand up. From now on, stop calling yourself this subordinate every other sentence, and stop calling me general all the time either. Then what should this subordinate call you? I glared at him in annoyance and stood to leave. Behind me came Xiaoman's teasing voice. General Zhao is true. If you do not know how, just learn from me. Ah Yuan, wait for me, I will go fetch medicine for you. With that, Xiaoman hurried after me. I glanced back. Zhao Gang still stood dazed in place, yet the corner of his mouth kept curving upward. The moment we left the rear courtyard, Commander Wang Tai returned. In the darkness of night, perhaps he would not notice my slightly swollen eyes and puffy face, but the instant he glanced at my face, he immediately lowered his head. It is over. Another subordinate has seen me like this. I forced my voice to sound hoarse. So quickly? You have already investigated everything? In the capital's scholarly circles, everyone is gossiping about it. It was not difficult to investigate. Speak, General. This subordinate is listening. Just then Zhao Gang also stepped forward. Stop hesitating. Speak quickly. What exactly did that hypocritical gentleman Chu Lang say to slander the general? Commander Wang Tai looked up at me again, still not daring to speak. I patted his shoulder. Just tell the truth. This general is not that fragile. Only then did Commander Wang Tai gather his courage and imitate the tone. My fellow colleagues, stop teasing me. That Li Yuan has rolled around among men for 5 years. She has not a shred of femininity left. Whether she still has her chastity is questionable. Fortunately, she still holds some power, so this official reluctantly accepted her. The air froze in an instant. The courtyard fell deathly silent. So quiet that even the chirping of insects seemed to have been frightened into silence by those venomous words. A sharp sword cry shattered the stillness. The sword at Zhao Gang's waist had left its sheath. Under the moonlight it gleamed with cold light. His eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging at his temples, killing intent radiating from his entire body, thicker even than on the battlefield. He turned, ready to charge toward the main gate. This old man will go kill him right now. Stop! I shouted. Zhao Gang's steps halted. He turned to look at me, chest heaving violently, eyes red-rimmed, voice trembling. General, how could he humiliate you like that? You led from the front, bathed in blood, yet in his mouth it became. Xiaoman shook with rage and stamped her foot hard. What kind of third-place scholar is he? He is clearly a maggot in the sewer. If he already despised you, why did he accept the imperial marriage decree in the first place? He wanted your power while cursing the hand that feeds him, then poured dirty water on you to highlight his own purity. I drew a deep breath, took out the small porcelain bottle, and swallowed a heart-saving pill. So that is how it is. On the wedding night of my previous life, he had despised my body covered in scars and refused to come near me even half a step. I had thought it was only because the scars frightened him, that he was too timid. It turned out he was not only afraid, he also found me dirty. He believed my wounds had already been seen and treated by others, that my body had been looked upon by someone else. I had failed to preserve my chastity for him, yet I had preserved peace for the entire realm. Zhao Gang, sheath your sword. My tone was unnaturally calm. General, Zhao Gang stamped his foot in agitation. Killing a beast like him would still dirty the blade. You still want to endure this? I walked up to him and placed my hand over the back of the hand, gripping the sword, feeling it tremble with fury. You said it yourself, killing him would dirty the blade. You are a fourth-rank military official of the court. For someone like him, you would bear the crime of killing a court official and bury your own future. Is it worth it? Zhao Gang ground his teeth. For you, it is worth it. My heart suddenly trembled violently. I looked into his eyes and said softly, his dog life is not worth you trading your own for. Zhao Gang froze. The killing intent around him dissipated by more than half in an instant. I curved my lips at him. You are my person. Your life belongs to me. I do not permit you to trade it away. The corner of Zhao Gang's mouth trembled. In the end he sheathed the sword. This subordinate obeys. But his face remained full of fury. I patted his shoulder, voice steady. This battle, this general will fight myself. Betraying my own heart, admit I was blind. But slandering my reputation and insulting my family's honor, that is not allowed. Xiaoman clenched her fists. Very well. How do you plan to fight this battle? This Xiaoman volunteers to serve before your horse and behind your saddle. I placed my hand on her shoulder as well. Good. Do you dare to charge into the imperial palace with this general tonight? Xiaoman's eyes widened instantly. That fierce? Your banner has already charged too far ahead. Even if I grew extra horse legs, I could not catch up. This subordinate will prepare the carriage at once. Zhao Gang finished speaking and immediately turned to leave. I continued looking at Xiaoman. You just say whether you dare or not. Xiaoman stamped her foot. For the justice of women, I will risk it all. I immediately spoke grandly. Good. You have definitely made a sworn friend in me, Li Yuan. Once this battle is over, we will swear sisterhood in the Golden Orchid ceremony. Xiaoman straightened her chest. Agreed. As long as we return with our lives, I will accept you as my sworn little sister. I raised an eyebrow and looked at Commander Wang Tai. Go tell the captain of the Imperial Guards outside the gate. This general wishes to see His Majesty one last time. If we delay any longer, we will not see him again. Also call 2 more men to bring a stretcher here. Later they will carry this general into the carriage. Xiaoman immediately slapped her forehead. Understood, understood. So it is this kind of palace drama. Little sister, you nearly scared your big sister to death. Ha, this scene needs to be performed well. It absolutely cannot do without your big sister here. Commander Wang Tai quickly returned with the stretcher. I lay down on it without ceremony. Commander Wang, you come along as well. Just now you said those words later in front of His Majesty. Repeat them exactly like that. With that, I closed my eyes. One arm hanging limply off the stretcher, head tilted to the side as if I no longer cared about anything. Xiaoman immediately wailed beside my ear. General Li, do not sleep, do not sleep. This subordinate will perform acupuncture on you immediately. Xiaoman actually inserted several needles into my head and face, making my eyelids instantly impossible to open and the corners of my mouth unable to lift. This big sister of mine is even more ruthless than I am. Fortunately, I can still hear sounds. General, what happened to you? Why did you become like this the moment this subordinate left for a short while? It was Zhao Gang who startled me so badly my ears hurt. General Zhao, calm down. This subordinate has just inserted needles to preserve the general's final breath. We must hurry into the palace. The general wishes to see His Majesty one last time. Good heavens, my big sister even managed to fool that fool Zhao Gang. This subordinate will immediately carry you into the palace for an audience. Please hold on. You have crossed the gates of hell so many times already. You will definitely make it through this time too. Do not move, General Zhao. Do not touch General Li. Just carry her like this onto the carriage and into the palace. Hurry, hurry. What do you need me to do? Physician Zhang, just say the word. As long as you can save the general, this Zhao Gang will do anything. Zhao Gang's voice already carried sobs. Hearing it made my heart and liver tremble. Stop talking nonsense. Go, go. If anyone dares to block you, kick them flying. Right now only His Majesty can save the general. Very well. As expected of my big sister, even kicking people to death, I will take the blame. Open the gates. Everyone move aside for this general. This general must take the general to see His Majesty one last time. Ah, Yuan, Yu Chulong is still outside the gates. Get lost. Do not block the way. The moment Zhao Gang finished speaking, a crisp crack rang out like the sound of ribs breaking. Ah! Chulang's miserable scream grew fainter and fainter, finally ending with a heavy thud as he hit the ground. Minister Chu? Minister Chu, are you all right? Panicked voices rose from the crowd. No, that is General Li. Everyone, look. General Li was just carried inside after Minister Chu's insults caused her old injuries to relapse. Now she is being carried out like this again. Heavens, did Minister Chu really curse General Li to death? She is the hero who drove back the Man tribe and pacified the northern frontier. Failing to protect General Li is this subordinate's dereliction of duty. This subordinate will immediately lead men to escort General Li into the palace. It was the captain of the Imperial Guards. I breathed a sigh of relief. With the Imperial Guards clearing the path, Zhao Gang would probably not need to kick anyone else. Kicking Chu Lang once was enough. The sound of carriage wheels rolling filled my ears. Warmth spread across my hand. Coarse armor texture. Zhao Gang's hand, followed by dampness. Zhao Gang's tears. This time you no longer have the jade pendant to hold. Hold this subordinate's hand instead. This subordinate knows that every time you hold that pendant you can wake up, but that jade has already broken. This subordinate also has no elegant scholar's trinket, so I can only offer myself for you to hold. A violent surge rose in my chest. My nose stung, yet I could not cry. I forced myself to grip Zhao Gang's hand in return, only hoping this fool would not truly be frightened into stupidity. Zhao Gang's hand trembled, then his grip tightened even more, squeezing my hand until it hurt, but compared to the wounds I had endured before, it was nothing at all. Physician Zhang the general can still be saved. I felt her gripping my other hand. Ha, you lighten your grip a little. Can you not see the general's hand has turned completely red from your squeezing? Zhao Gang eased his strength but did not let go. Oh, if the general wakes up, you absolutely must not tell her, all right? This subordinate will not say anything. You should think about what to say when we enter the palace for the audience later. With the Imperial Guards captain accompanying us, entering the palace went smoothly. Earlier, when Zhao Gang had carried me inside the residence, Xiaoman had already instructed the Imperial Guards to report to His Majesty. As expected, the Emperor had not yet gone to sleep. What is going on? I just sent Chief Physician Zhang and the others to the general's residence. Why are you bringing someone into the palace now? Wang Delu, quickly send people to call Chief Physician Zhang and the others back. If the person is already in the palace, then treat her here before returning. It is over. Before I was only confined to my own residence. Now I am locked right under His Majesty's nose. Your Majesty, this general is guilty. Please punish me. After the sound of kneeling, Zhao Gang spoke in a low voice. The matter of beating Minister Chu? I have already heard from the Imperial Guards. Speak, why did you resort to violence? This subordinate heard the rumors on the streets, and the filthy words Minister Chu spoke at the banquet he hosted for his colleagues that day. I could not endure it any longer. What exactly did he say that made even someone as steady as General Zhao publicly assault a court official? Commander Wang Tai recounted vividly and in full detail all the insulting words he had uncovered. It was truly outrageous. Guards, bring Chu Lang to me. Xiaoman, divine physician, Zhang, quickly save this girl. This morning she was still jumping about lively, laughing and crying with me. How has she suddenly? My heart suddenly warmed. If my father were still alive, he would probably be like His Majesty right now. General Li has a heart ailment that has not yet healed. Added to that, anger attacked her heart. This subordinate has inserted needles to preserve her final breath, just so she can see you one last time. Then, if I pull out these needles, will the girl wake up? Correct. But whether she survives afterward depends on whether the heart knot can be untied. Big sister, you are truly formidable, even fabricating this so convincingly. Very well, I understand. This morning the girl was already made to cry once, but at the time I was too muddled with anger over her concealing her injuries and did not have time to ask the reason. It turns out it was because of Chu Lang's filthy words. Matters concerning reputation and chastity. This girl has a thin face. No wonder she could not speak of it. I never imagined Chu Lang could be so despicable. He truly thought this girl, all alone, would be easy to bully. I could hear the guilt in the Emperor's voice. Tears welled in my chest, but the needles prevented me from crying. The sound of the Imperial study door opening reached my ears, followed by Chu Lang's urgent voice. Your Majesty. Zhao Gang assaulted this minister in broad daylight and even kicked and broke this minister's ribs. You must. Another crisp crack rang out, followed by Chu Lang's miserable scream that shook my eardrums. Who kicked this time? Zhao Gang, do not be stupid enough to commit violence right before the Imperial presence. If you really kick someone to death, not only I, even His Majesty would find it hard to protect you. Your Majesty, why did you kick this minister as well? Are you not afraid this minister will die in the Imperial study and make you be cursed as a muddle-headed ruler for 10,000 years? Muddle-headed ruler? You slandered this throne's meritorious official who protects the nation, provoked a pillar of the state to the brink of death, and threw you onto the main road. Each person spitting once would be enough to drown you. This throne is merely granting you a slightly quicker death. Haha, so it was His Majesty who kicked. Refreshing. Minister Chu, you must endure. This subordinate will immediately set your bones. Dying in the imperial study would be too unlucky. Chu Lang's screams grew even more piercing. I tried my hardest not to laugh. No, I do not need to hold back. I could not laugh anyway. I am laughing loudly in my heart. Your Majesty, do not let this hypocritical gentleman dirty your shoes. If you still want to kick, please let this general do it. This general has thick civil officials' saliva cannot injure this general. These two fools. Is a military official's reputation not a reputation? The finger he used outside the residence gates to point at this girl while cursing. Which hand was it? The right hand. General, this subordinate will go stomp it broken immediately. Another series of bone-cracking sounds rang out, crisp and pleasing like firecrackers exploding in succession. Chu Lang's originally pleasant voice now shattered completely, screaming so unpleasantly it reached the extreme. Oh heavens, General Zhao, lighten your hand a little. It is already smashed like this. How is this subordinate supposed to set the bones? Minister Chu, stop screaming. Later you will tear your throat. The items in the imperial study are all precious. Why not bite this subordinate's shoe first? This subordinate does not mind if your mouth is dirty. Feel free to bite. This subordinate will immediately set your hand bones. Listening to Chu Lang's muffled groans of pain, I truly could not hold back anymore. The corner of my mouth actually trembled uncontrollably. Little girl, divine physician Zhang, stop fussing over that beast. Come quickly and check on this girl. She just reacted earlier. Could it be this throne's medicine worked? As expected of your Majesty found the right heart medicine so quickly. This subordinate will immediately remove the needles for the general. See if you can wake her. Xiaoman, come remove the needles for me. I kept my eyes tightly shut, face muscles tensed to the limit. Girl, wake up. Wake up and this throne will appoint you Grand General. This is the official position your father once held. It is not much different from mine now. Both stand at the head of the military officials. I still forced myself not to move. Or this throne will appoint you Princess of Zhenguo. That title is even higher than the loyal and brave marquis your father held back then. Female Duke? Already feeling majestic? My eyelashes trembled slightly, but I still did not open my eyes. Still not enough? But the only things this throne can bestow are these few. Could it be I should accept you as my adopted daughter and let the matter pass? This is good. I slowly opened my eyes, voice weak. Adoptive father. The emperor was squatting beside me. His lips trembled at once. His eyes grew red-rimmed. I curved my lips again. This daughter wants to be the Princess of Zhenguo. The emperor slowly nodded. That title is not bad, it suits you very well. I raised an eyebrow again. And concurrently Grand General? The emperor blinked, then immediately stood up. I will give you everything. Satisfied? Get up quickly. The ground is cold. Whatever you want, just tell this throne directly. Creating such a big scene, who exactly were you trying to frighten? But this throne says this first. You are only allowed to sit in the central command tent and direct operations. You are not permitted to charge the front lines personally anymore. I immediately scrambled up from the stretcher and dropped to one knee. This daughter thanks adoptive father for his grace. The emperor snorted coldly and looked at Xiaoman. Divine physician Zhang, Xiaoman. You truly have great courage, daring to collude with this girl to deceive this throne. I immediately stood and linked arms with Xiaoman. Adoptive father, allow this daughter to introduce. This is the sworn big sister this daughter has just accepted also. In other words, your Majesty's half-adopted daughter. The emperor froze for a moment, then lifted his foot, removed his shoe and threw it straight at me. You two colluded, did you not? You are even too lazy to continue acting. In the past your father had no time to discipline you. Now let this throne properly teach you, you mischievous girl. I immediately raised my hand and caught the shoe, then knelt to put it back on the emperor's foot. Adoptive father, calm your anger. This daughter was also driven to desperation, unable to argue against those civil officials and unable to personally prove my innocence against the rumors. I could only risk this head of mine, even if I risk being beheaded. The emperor's gaze shifted toward the imperial study door. Following his line of sight, I saw Chu Lang lying on the floor, his right arm twisted at a bizarre angle from the forearm, an embroidered shoe still stuffed in his mouth, the thick soul-stained crimson from the corner of his lips. Meanwhile, Zhao Gang's foot was still planted on Chu Lang's left hand. I tried my hardest not to laugh. Adoptive father, the good son-in-law of the Imperial Guard's commander has been turned into this state inside your study. Could it be he is rebelling? Chu Lang immediately mumbled. Chu Lang, what did you say? This princess cannot hear clearly. Speak louder. Chu Lang mumbled even louder. Oh, so you mean you have absolutely no intention of rebelling? You, a mere minister of revenue, Marrying the Imperial Guards commander's daughter is one thing, but wanting to marry this princess back to your residence is simply to have the frontier military power in this princess's hands to back you up, so you need not fear your father-in-law. The aura around the emperor changed instantly. His expression turned cold as he spoke in a low voice. Excellent, a minister of revenue. This throne let you manage military salaries, yet you took this throne's money pouch, colluded with this throne's imperial guards, and even wanted to marry this throne's grand general. Do you also want to take this throne's life as well? Guards. Drag Chu Lang to the imperial prison and thoroughly investigate the Ministry of Revenue's accounts and all salary expenditures under the former Imperial Guards Commander Liu. If even one coin does not match, this throne will execute Chu Lang's entire clan. When the Imperial Guards entered and dragged Chu Lang away, they accidentally bumped his broken right arm, triggering another round of ear-piercing screams. Zhao Gang lifted his foot. Chu Lang immediately used his left hand to pull the shoe from his mouth, and shouted loudly, "Your Majesty." This minister only wanted to borrow power for promotion, absolutely no intention of rebelling. Li Yuan, I studied bitterly for 15 years to pass the imperial examinations and worked hard to achieve what I have today. How can you disregard our past affection and ruin me to this extent? I stepped forward and slapped him hard across the face. This general bathed in blood on distant battlefields, led the charge with unblemished honor, and fought for 5 years to protect this nation's peace. Why do you not regard our past affection? Why destroy this general's reputation and slander this general's purity? Chu Lang turned his face back, still wanting to speak. The emperor spoke coldly. Drag him out immediately. Do not dirty this throne's imperial study. Hearing the word dirty, I immediately took out a handkerchief to wipe my hand, but what I pulled out was still Zhao Tso Gang's square handkerchief. My wiping motion froze. The emperor's gaze immediately shifted over. Whose man's handkerchief is this? Tell this throne, and this throne will immediately grant the marriage and select him as your live-in son-in-law. I looked toward Zhao Gang. His lips trembled, face covered in tears. The emperor looked at Zhao Gang. It belongs to General Zhao. Why are you crying? Marriage is a good thing, why cry? Following beside your general, you learned nothing good, only picked up her habit of crying at the drop of a hat. Zhao Gang also pulled something from his chest to wipe his face. It is this subordinate's handkerchief. The emperor immediately looked delighted. Marriage granted immediately. This throne will issue the decree selecting Zhao Gang as the consort of the Princess of Zhenguo. You will no longer go to the frontier either. If that Imperial Guards commander truly has problems, then Zhao Gangyu will be the new Imperial Guards commander. The two of you will obediently stay in the capital and give old Li a few more children. Zhao Gang was about to kneel and give thanks when the emperor asked, "But why were you crying just now? Tell the truth. Otherwise this throne will take back all the rewards mentioned above." Zhao Gang sniffed and glanced at me, speaking softly. This subordinate just now thought the general had truly lost consciousness. This subordinate had already witnessed the general suffer one relapse of old injuries today and thought this time it truly relapsed again. The emperor's face darkened instantly as he looked at me. Is that true? Not entirely acting. What exactly happened to you? Are you trying to use acting as an excuse to deceive this throne again? Xiaomen, you speak. Tell the truth. Otherwise this throne will not accept you as half-adopted daughter. Xiaoman, who had been standing on one foot in the corner, immediately hopped over while saying, "Adoptive father, it was not once, it was twice." I quickly stepped forward and covered Xiaoman's mouth. Big sister. The time I fell ill from lovesickness. How can that be spoken of? The emperor snorted coldly. Just then Chief Physician Zhang of the Imperial Medical Academy also rushed over. I raised my hand to cover my face. As expected, after Chief Physician Zhang took my pulse, he said my heart meridian had torn again. That very night the emperor kept me in the palace and locked Xiaoman and me together in one palace hall, punishing her with preparing citizen and performing acupuncture on me. Until my injuries healed, neither of us was allowed to leave the palace. That night, while Xiaoman applied scar removal ointment to me, she sighed. "Little sister, the two of us truly share blessings and hardships together." Hearing the words, "little sister," my nose stung instantly. It had been 5 years since anyone had called me that. The last time was before my elder brother led the army to attack Shanghai Pass himself. He had brought a strong man before me. "Little sister, from now on elder brother will have no more time to teach you martial arts. Let him continue teaching you. His name is Zhao Gang." I sniffed and looked out the window. The moon was nearly full. In my previous life tonight I had married Chu Lang, and on this very night I had died filled with hatred. In this life I have Zhao Gang, I have His Majesty, I have Xiaoman. My heart holds no more regrets.